A day before my sister's wedding, I got a bank alert. $12,000 charged reception services. She snapped. Don't act surprised. You don't even have a life to spend it on. I smiled. Beautiful's about to end. The next morning, panic spread through the group chat. Everything canceled. And then they came angry. My name's Linda. I'm 31 and I've lived in Chandler, Arizona my whole life. Never married, no kids, no real drama until now. I work in financial operations for a logistics company. It's the kind of job where nobody really knows what you do, but somehow the office falls apart when you take a day off. And that's pretty much been my life. Dependable, invisible, and always available. My younger sister Brianna is the exact opposite. She's 28, engaged to a guy named Trevor who's just like her. Flashy, shallow, charming in the way people like that always are. Brianna is the kind of person who knows how to make herself the center of every room. Growing up, she got away with everything, and I was the one picking up the pieces. Somewhere along the way, I stopped being a sister and started being a resource. So, when I got the bank alert the night before her wedding, I wasn't even surprised at first, just numb. $12,034.88. Charged reception services. I was lying on my couch wearing old sweats, eating dry cereal straight from the box. My first thought was maybe it was fraud. But I tapped into the charge details, and it all clicked. The venue name, the timing, the final payment. It wasn't fraud. It was Brianna. Years ago, I'd let her use my debit card once, when her own was frozen. She swore it would be for just that day. Just $100. I never changed the info after. Honestly, I forgot about it. I wasn't using the account much except for savings, which made it the perfect target for a little last-minute help. I called her, no answer. Texted her, nothing. 10 minutes passed. Then my phone buzzed with her reply. Don't act surprised. You don't even have a life to spend it on. I just sat there. It was like something snapped, but not in a loud or violent way. More like when a lock finally gives way, quiet, irreversible. She thought she'd won. Thought I'd roll over like I always do, but for the first time in a long time, I felt wide awake. I didn't reply. I smiled and whispered to no one. Beautiful about to end. Turns out they'd planned everything behind my back. The venue, the catering, the DJ, flowers, lighting, all of it paid at the last possible minute using my account. They'd waited until the very end, so I wouldn't have time to do anything about it, because that's who they think I am. The one who won't make a fuss, who'll take the hit and say nothing. They didn't know I'd been learning, watching, waiting. I spent the whole night on the phone with vendors, reading out transaction IDs, canceling services, explaining the payments weren't authorized. Some asked questions, some didn't. All I cared about was getting the charges reversed. By 3:30 a.m., my account was locked and the disputes were filed. By sunrise, every contract was void. At 7:42 a.m., my phone started blowing up. The family group chat was a disaster zone. Why is the florist saying we didn't pay? Trevor's calling the venue. They're saying it's canceled. Is this a mistake? Linda, what did you do? I didn't respond. At 8:15, my mom called. Ignored. By 8:40, she was at my door with Brianna right behind her. Both of them, red-faced and loud. I opened the door and let them speak. They accused me of destroying everything. My mom said I was jealous. Brianna told me I'd regret this for the rest of my life. I didn't say much, just looked at them both, then said one thing before closing the door. You shouldn't use people just because you're sure they won't fight back. Then I locked it, sat back down on the couch, finished my cereal. I knew what was coming. The real fallout hadn't even started yet. They didn't speak to me after the wedding day, not directly anyway, but my phone lit up with passive-aggressive messages from relatives I hadn't seen in years. My Aunt Clara from San Diego messaged me with family supposed to lift each other up, not tear things down. My cousin Michelle posted a story on Instagram, a blurry picture of Brianna and Trevor at the courthouse, captioned, "True love survives even sabotage." And the family group chat, a war zone. It wasn't even subtle. One message after another, all pointed in my direction without ever saying my name. Some people need to learn the meaning of selflessness. This family used to mean something. God doesn't bless bitterness. My mom didn't call me. She just posted a status on Facebook that said, "Some wounds don't come from strangers. Some come from the people you raised." 23 likes, 5 comments. I didn't read them. The wedding happened the same day, just not the way they planned. They dragged themselves into a courthouse in downtown Phoenix, paper flowers in hand, barely holding it together. Brianna wore a backup dress and posted a blurry boomerang of her ring, with the caption, "Married to my best friend no matter what." They went to dinner at a Chili's with the bridal party, which had shrunk to 5 people by then. No music, no speeches, just limp nachos and forced laughter. I stayed home, made pasta, turned off my phone. I thought that would be the end of it. I figured I'd bought myself some peace, even if it was the kind of silence you only get after a storm tears through. But I was wrong. This wasn't over, not even close. Over the next week, they started turning up the heat. It was little things at first. My mom would send long voice notes to the group chat about how she used to believe in people. My brother Adam texted me late one night to say, "This isn't just about money, you broke her," as if Brianna wasn't the one who used my account like a piggy bank, and then laughed about it. They started talking about me like I was dead weight. A cold shell, a bitter spinster, who'd ruined something beautiful because she couldn't stand seeing someone else happy. And I took it. At first I told myself it didn't matter. That I'd done what I had to do. That letting them spin their little stories was just the price of finally standing up for myself. I didn't respond. I didn't defend myself. I just tried to move on. But it wasn't that simple. Every message sat on my phone like a stone. Every dig chipped away at the old version of me that still wanted to be accepted, still wanted their approval. I kept hoping it would fade, that they'd get tired, find a new problem, move on. They always did. But this time, they didn't move on because they weren't done punishing me. 2 weeks after the wedding, my mom showed up at my apartment unannounced. I hadn't changed the locks yet. She walked right in like she always used to and started talking before I could even stand up. She talked about how I humiliated the family, about how Brianna cried herself to sleep, how I've always kept myself at a distance and acted like I was better than everyone else. I didn't say anything. I just sat there. Then she said something I hadn't expected. She looked me straight in the eye and said, "Maybe if you had a husband, or kids, you'd understand what it's like to want something so badly." And that was the moment I stopped being quiet. I stood up and said, "You know what? I'm done. Done being the family at Dunn, letting you all treat me like I don't matter unless I'm useful. You're all fools if you think I'm still the same person who sat through your insults just to feel included. If something happened to any of you tomorrow, I wouldn't drop everything and come running. You've shown me who you are, and I finally believe it." She didn't say a word, just stood there blinking, then turned around and walked out. That was the last time she came over uninvited. I stood there for a while after the door shut. The room felt quiet in a way I'd never noticed before, not empty, just finally mine. It was the first time I said it out loud, "I'm not going back." After I closed the door on my mom, I thought there'd be some immediate fallout. Another explosion, more messages, maybe even a second ambush at my place. But instead, there was silence. A strange, heavy kind of silence. No calls, no texts, not even the usual backhanded group chat messages. They just stopped. And for the first time in my adult life, I didn't chase after them. I muted the family group chat. Then I deleted it. I took my name off the shared streaming accounts, shut down the backup Uber Eats card Brianna used when she maxed hers out, logged into the utilities app, and canceled the autopay I'd set up for my mom's electricity bill. That one I'd been covering since January without ever mentioning it. No more quiet favors, no more invisible support. For a few days I waited for the backlash, but it didn't come right away. Not until the little things they depended on started slipping. Then came the confused text from Brianna. "Why did Hulu log me out from Adam? Is the gym card canceled? It's saying declined." And from my mom, the first real message since our last conversation. "The lights almost got shut off today. What's going on?" I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I booked myself a weekend in Sedona. Last minute, solo. I'd never done something like that before. I got a cabin up in the Red Rocks, bought the most expensive spa package they had, and didn't tell a single soul. I left my work phone at home, didn't bring my laptop. I sat in hot springs with strangers, and let the mountain air just be quiet around me. The second night there, I sat on the little patio outside the cabin, watching the sun disappear into the red cliffs, and I realized something simple but heavy. I didn't miss them. I missed the idea of family, the version I built in my head, the comfort of belonging, but the actual people, the way they used me, dismissed me, treated my boundaries like suggestions. No, I didn't miss that at all. I went home Monday morning and started living differently. Not in a flashy, performative way, just better for myself. I bought a new mattress, threw out every piece of furniture that felt like it belonged to a version of me I'd outgrown, started walking in the evenings instead of scrolling through other people's lives. I ordered takeout and didn't feel bad about it. Took a Saturday pottery class, went to a wine tasting solo, bought clothes I actually liked. I even called my bank and opened a second account, one nobody knew about. Meanwhile, they started to notice. Brianna sent a message. Not to be weird, but where'd you go last weekend? Someone said they saw you in Sedona. I left it on read. My mom left a voicemail. Said she hoped I hadn't spent everything already. Like I was some fragile idiot with no self-control now that I'd stopped pouring money into their lives. That one made me laugh. But what really got to them wasn't the silence. It was the fact that I was doing better without them. That I didn't seem heartbroken, desperate, or lost. They expected me to fall apart once I was alone. What they didn't understand was I'd already been alone for years. This was just quieter, and then something changed. They stopped attacking and started hesitating. First, it was subtle. My mom sent me a meme. No caption, just a video of a cat falling into a bowl of popcorn. 2 days later, Brianna liked one of my photos. Then Adam replied to one of my Instagram stories. Just an emoji, but still, I could feel the shift. They were testing the waters, seeing if I was open, seeing if I missed them. I didn't. But I wasn't angry anymore either. Because the truth was, I'd found something I didn't know I was looking for. Peace. And for once, I wasn't afraid to lose people just to keep it. It was a Tuesday late morning when the front desk at my office buzzed and said I had a visitor, family, something about an emergency. I almost didn't go, but curiosity won. When I walked into the lobby, I froze. Brianna, hair curled, heels too high for this heat, sitting with her legs crossed like she was waiting for a table at a trendy brunch spot. She looked up, smiled like we were still sisters who exchanged holiday recipes and texted goodnight. She stood up and said, "We need to talk." We didn't go into my office. I led her outside to the edge of the parking lot, where there was a quiet bench under a half-dead tree. She sat like it was a throne. I stood. She started slow, told me she missed me, said she didn't like how things ended, said Trevor even thought it was too far, and that he barely talks to her when I come up now, which was a surprise all on its own. She mentioned how awkward it had been since the wedding, how people still asked her what happened, how the energy at the courthouse felt cursed, and how she wished she could rewind. And then she pulled out a paper from her purse, folded, highlighted. It was a legal letter from the wedding venue. Apparently, after they lost everything the night before the wedding, Brianna had her best friend post a long dramatic Google review calling the venue a scam, saying the staff screamed at her, ruined her gown, and held the deposit hostage. The venue was now suing her for defamation and damages. She handed me the paper and said she needed me to testify. To say the cancellation was a misunderstanding, that I never meant for it to happen. I blinked. She looked nervous for the first time. Then she said it. "You don't even have to lie. Just smooth it over, they won't question you." Like I owed her that. I handed the paper back and told her, "No." She said, "Linda, please. You're better than this." I said, "I am. That's why I'm not doing it." And then I turned and walked away. I barely got back to my desk before my phone lit up with a call from my mom. I ignored it. Then Adam, then Brianna again. Voicemail after voicemail. The volume of panic was building, and I could feel it through the screen, but I didn't answer. That night at 11:23 p.m., I got something I hadn't expected. A text from Trevor. We'd never messaged before. I didn't even know he had my number. Read, "I don't know what they did to you, but you've got them terrified. And honestly, respect." I stared at it for a while, not because it mattered, but because it was the first time anyone, even tangentially, admitted they saw what was happening. I didn't reply. The next morning, I woke up to something worse. An email alert from my bank. Unusual login attempt from a new device. Then another. Someone had tried to access my old account. Not the new one. The one Brianna still had credentials for from years ago. The one I thought I'd locked down. I moved fast, called the bank, confirmed no transfers had gone through, reset everything, added new verifications. I even set up Voice ID, and transferred the remaining funds into my private account. They were getting desperate and sloppy. That same afternoon, I went to my storage unit, the small one I never told anyone about. I dug out the locked box I kept for emergencies. Inside were all the old paper records, bills I'd paid for them, notes, screenshots I'd printed. I hadn't known why I kept them at the time. Maybe some part of me always knew. I wasn't just done being their safety net. I was done pretending it hadn't happened. They thought cutting me out would teach me a lesson, but it taught me one instead. That my silence was their favorite weapon. And now that I wasn't using it, they had nothing left to hold over me. 2 days later, my mom sent me a text that just said we should all sit down as a family. Brianna followed it with, "We've all made mistakes, but we're still blood." I didn't reply to either. I just booked another weekend away alone. No announcements, no pictures, just me somewhere quiet with my phone on airplane mode and a journal in my bag. They were scrambling, and I was finally still. Flagstaff felt like another country. It wasn't fancy or healing in the spine crystals kind of way, but it was quiet. That was all I wanted. Quiet. A motel on the edge of town, a diner where nobody looked twice at a woman, eating alone, and a local bookstore where I could disappear for hours. I bought a journal from a little antique shop near the square. Thick pages, worn leather cover, smelled like someone's attic. I didn't even know why at first. I hadn't written anything personal in years. But once I sat down that first night, I couldn't stop. I filled pages. It wasn't for therapy. It wasn't art. It was inventory. I wrote out everything I had done for them over the last 10 years. Rent payments, grocery drop-offs, emergency transfers, bill coverage, car rides at 2 a.m., vacations they took without me, but that I unknowingly helped pay for. I even remembered that time Brianna used my credit card for a boutique hotel stay because her birthday plans fell through and never paid me back. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just wrote fully page after page. By the end of the weekend, the notebook was almost half full. And I had proof. Not for them. For me, I wasn't crazy. I wasn't cold. I was used. When I came back Sunday night, I turned on my phone. 38 messages, 11 missed calls, 3 voicemails. I expected more of the same. Whining, guilt, tripping blame. But this time, something was different. First, Brianna's Facebook post, a selfie captioned, "When you finally realize you've been taking the wrong people for granted. Still learning, still hoping it's not too late." I didn't react. Didn't comment, but I saw it, and so did a lot of other people. Her followers flooded the comments with supportive messages. One even tagged me at Linda Taylor. "You're a real one." I ignored it. Later that night, I got a message from Adam. "I think we owe you a real apology. I'm not saying I understand everything, but I get why you snapped. Mom's been quieter lately. Brian is different. Just wanted you to know we're not pretending anymore. If you ever want to talk, I'll answer." And then something I never expected. A text from Trevor. I hadn't heard from him since the wedding disaster, and we'd barely spoken, even when they were engaged. Read, "They're scared of you, like genuinely afraid of what you'll do next." And honestly, it's impressive. I sat with that one for a while because it hit me. They didn't fear me because I did something terrible. They feared me because I finally did something. For once, I wasn't the buffer. I was the line. The next day, I woke up to an email from my bank. Someone tried to access my old account again. The one I'd locked after everything. I called, confirmed nothing was taken, added more security, but that attempt told me everything I needed to. No. They were still looking for ways to pull me back in. Only now the door was closed. Locked. The same day, I found myself driving out to a small storage unit I'd been renting for years. I didn't even remember what I kept in there. Turned out it was mostly old documents, tax forms, receipts, boxes of files from my early 20s. But tucked inside one of the folders was something I forgot I had. A manila envelope of handwritten ayahs from Brianna. Little notes she'd left around the apartment years ago when we were still roommates. and she was constantly borrowing cash. "I'll pay you back Friday. Love you. Cover me this time. I'll Venmo you later. Promise I'll make this up to you." He never did. I held that envelope for a while. Thought about sending her a photo. Then I didn't, because this wasn't about collecting debt anymore. This was about letting go of the version of me who needed people to admit they were wrong before I could move on. Later that week, something else came. A surprise group text, not the same old family group chat, a new one. It was called Family. Just that. No emojis, no inside jokes, just the three of them. Brianna was the first message. "You want to take a trip? Just us. No drama, no expectations. You choose the place. We'll cover everything. We just want time together. Real time." I stared at it for a long time. Then Adam replied, "We mean it. No guilt. No asking for anything. Just showing up." Then after a pause, "My mom, you deserve better from all of us. Let us try." It should have felt manipulative. Part of me braced for that. But it didn't. It felt cautious, like they were finally walking on eggshells, not me. I didn't respond right away. I spent the evening cleaning my apartment, making soup from scratch, and sitting on the floor with my journal. I lit a candle, put on music, just existed. The next morning I wrote back, "Fine, we'll go." But I set the rules. I pick where, I pick when, and the second it starts to feel like before, I'm out. No questions, no apologies. Brianna agreed. Adam, same. My mom, proud of you for real this time. And for the first time in a long time, I believed she meant it. Something was changing. Not fast, not perfectly, but it was real. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough to start again. We ended up going to Oregon. I picked it partly because none of us had ever been, and partly because it was far enough from Arizona to force everyone out of their usual habits. No quick visits, no excuses to leave early, no backup plans, just the four of us, me, Brianna, Adam, and our mom, in a rented cabin outside Bend, surrounded by pine trees and nothing else. The air felt different there. Colder, quieter, like it belonged to someone else and we were just borrowing it. When we arrived, no one really knew what to say. The first few hours were stiff, like people who hadn't seen each other in years. And in a way, we hadn't. Not as equals. Not like this. Brianna kept looking at me like she didn't recognize me. My mom kept doing that thing where she opened her mouth like she was about to speak, then shut it again. Adam mostly stayed in the background, avoiding eye contact, helping, with bags, chopping vegetables for dinner, like a silent apology. The first night, we sat around the fireplace in silence, until Brianna finally said it. "We were awful to you, all of us." I didn't reply. He kept going. Said she didn't know what she was doing at the time, that she thought I'd always be there, that she didn't even realize how often she leaned on me until I wasn't there to lean on anymore. She said the wedding wasn't just about the wedding. It was about control, about not wanting me to have any say in anything because they were afraid of how much I'd given already. She cried. Then my mom spoke. Said she'd spent so long trying to keep everyone else afloat that she hadn't noticed she was using me as the life raft. Said she assumed I was fine because I acted fine, but fine doesn't mean respected. Fine doesn't mean appreciated. Adam admitted he didn't want to see it. That if he did, he'd have to admit he was part of it too. No one asked me to forgive them. That was the surprising part. They just sat there letting the truth sit in the room like smoke, not asking me to clean it up, not asking me to fix it. And maybe that's what made me start to believe they actually meant it this time. The rest of the trip wasn't perfect. There were awkward moments, long silences, but there was no tension, no walking on eggshells. They listened when I spoke. They asked questions. They helped. My mom cooked one night and let me sleep in the next morning without guilt. Adam and I hiked up a trail and didn't talk about the past, just pointed out birds and clouds and how the trees up here smelled better. Brianna offered to cover gas for the ride back. Not a big thing, but something. On the final night, we played cards at the big wooden table in the cabin. Brianna laughed until she snorted. My mom drank wine. Adam burned the garlic bread and got roasted for it. And for a few hours, it felt like we weren't broken anymore, just people learning how to start over. Before we left the next morning, Brianna asked me if we'd ever be close again. I told her I didn't know that it wasn't about closeness anymore. It was about consistency, about respect. She nodded and said, "Fair enough." As I drove home, something in my chest felt different. Not healed, but lighter. And I realized something. They weren't my responsibility. Not their moods, not their mistakes, not their needs. I was allowed to live my own life. And I finally was. After I got home, I didn't jump back into old patterns. I didn't answer every message right away. I didn't pick up every call. I didn't pay any bills that weren't mine. I said, I bought a ticket to Barcelona, just me, 10 days. No plan. I posted a picture from the airport with no caption. Brianna liked it. My mom commented with a heart. Adam sent a thumbs up. No questions, no guilt. Just space. And for the first time, I wasn't just surviving them. I was living without them at the center, and that was enough for